welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and this week we're going to talk Fox City's Book Festival that's coming up in October, and we're going to be featuring some of the authors that are going to be at the festival. So I'll turn it over to Jill for her first pick.
All right, my first one is called Bit Flip by Mike Trigg. 40-something tech executive Sam Hughes came to Silicon Valley to make the world a better place. He's just not sure he's doing that anymore. And when an onstage meltdown sends him into a professional tailspin, he suddenly sees the culture of the Bay Area's tech bubble in a new and more cynical light. Just as he's wondering if his startup career and marriage might both be over at 40-something, an inadvertent discovery pulls Sam back in his former company, where he begins to unravel the insidious schemes of the founder and venture investors that led to his ouster. Driven by his desire for redemption, he discovers a conspiracy of fraud, blackmail, and manipulation that leads to tragic outcomes, threatening to destroy not only the company, but Sam's moral compass as well. Entangled in a web of complicity, how far will he go to achieve his dreams of entrepreneurial success and personal wealth? Bit Flip is a corporate thriller that delivers an authentic insider's view of the corrupting influence of greed, entitlement, and vanity in technology startups. It was published in August of this year. Mike Trigg is going to be at the Stone Arch Brew Pub in Appleton at 6 p.m. on Friday, October 14th, if you want to meet the author. So there you go, our first one.
My first pick was one of my favorite author talks from previous years. Jill's wearing the t-shirt from that year. This is Ruta Sapeti's, and her new book is I Must Betray You. This book is set in Romania in 1989. Communist regimes are crumbling across Europe. 17-year-old Christian Florescu dreams of becoming a writer, but Romanians aren't free to dream. They are bound by rules and force. In a country governed by isolation and fear, Christian is blackmailed by the secret police to become an informer. He's left with only two choices: betray everyone and everything he loves, or use his position to creatively undermine the most notoriously evil dictator in Eastern Europe. He risks everything to unmask the truth behind the regime, give voice to fellow Romanians, and expose to the world what is happening in his country. He eagerly joins the revolution to fight for change when the time arrives. But what is going to be his cost for freedom? So if you want to check out her new book, it's I Must Betray You. I do have her old Salt to the Sea. We thought it might be hard to get some of these books. You'll be putting them on hold in InfoSoup, but if you want to go back and visit anything they've previously written, I loved this book. And like I mentioned, she was one of my favorite author talks. She will be a virtual event at this year's festival on October 16th at 5:30 p.m. And they are going to have a watch party for that one at Menasha Public Library. So if you want to get part of the watch party, you can go there. Otherwise, you can join in on Zoom.
My next book is called Fine. It's a comic about gender by Rhea Ewing. As graphic artist Rhea Ewing neared college graduation in 2012, they became consumed with the question, what is gender? This obsession sparked a quest in which they eagerly approached both friends and strangers in their quiet Midwest town for interviews to turn into comics. A decade later, this project exploded into a sweeping portrait of the intricacies of gender expression, with interviewees from all over the country. Questions such as, how do you identify? Produced fiercely honest stories of dealing with adolescents taking hormones, changing pronouns, and how these experiences can differ, often drastically, depending on culture, race, and religion. Amidst beautifully rendered scenes emerges Ewing's own story of growing up in rural Kentucky, grappling with their identity as a teenager, and ultimately finding themselves through art and by creating something this very fine. Tender and wise, inclusive and inviting, Fine is an indispensable account for anyone eager to define gender in their own terms. It was published in April of this year. Rhea Ewing will be at the Boys and Girls Brigade of Neenah on Saturday, October 15th at 3:30 p.m. So,
my second pick is The Family Chow by Lon Samantha Chang. The residents of Haven, Wisconsin have dined on the Fine Chow restaurant's delicious Americanized Chinese food for 35 years, content to ignore any unsavory whispers about the family owners. Whether or not Big Leo Chow is honest or his wife Winnie is happy, their food tastes good and their 3 sons earn scholarships to respectable colleges. But when the brothers reunite in Haven, the Chow family's secrets and simmering resentments erupt at last. Before long, brash, charismatic, and tyrannical patriarch Leo is found dead. presumed murdered, and his sons find they've drawn the exacting gaze of the entire town. The ensuing trial brings to light potential motives for all three brothers, and as the spotlight on the brothers tightens and the family dog meets an unexpected fate, the three brothers must reckon with the legacy of their father's outsized appetites and their own future survival. So, this is a new book by her, The Family Chow. If you can't find that one or you gotta wait for hold, she wrote Inheritance back in 2004. That traces the echo of betrayal through generations and explores the elusive nature of trust. She also has a short story collection called Hunger. So if there's some other things you want to check out by Lon Samantha Chang, check those out. She will also be at the Boys and Girls Brigade on October 15th, but she will be at 6 p.m.
All right. The next one is Raft of Stars by Andrew Graff. It's the summer of 1994 in Claypot, Wisconsin, and the lives of 10-year-old Fish Branson and Dale Brudwin are shaped by the two fathers they don't talk about. One night, tired of seeing his best friend bruised and terrorized by his no-good dad, Fish takes action. A gunshot rings out and the two boys flee the scene, believing themselves murderers. They head for the woods where they find their way onto a raft, but the unnatural terrors of Iron's Forge Gorge threaten to overwhelm them. 4 adults track them into the forest, each one on a journey of his or her own. Fish's mother, Miranda, a wise woman full of fierce faith, his granddad, Teddy, who knows the woods like the back of his hand, Tiffany, a purple-haired gas station attendant and poet looking for a connection, and Sheriff Cal, who's having doubts about his life in law enforcement. The adults track the boys towards the novel's heart-pounding climax on the edge of the gorge, in a conclusion that beautifully makes manifest the grace these characters find in the wilderness in one another. The timeless story of loss, hope, and adventure runs like a river itself through the vividly rendered landscape of the upper Midwest. This was first published last year in March 2021. Andrew Graff will be at the Boys and Girls Brigade of Neenah at 1 p.m. on Saturday the 15th. And here at the Kimberly Library, we're going to be doing a book discussion on this book if you are in grades 5 through 8. And we're going to kind of read the book together, so you don't have to read the whole book before you come. You could come not even having read the book because we're going to read it there. So.
That's one of the few books I actually had a chance to read.
Yeah.
All right. My third pick, hope I pronounced her last name correctly, Jennifer Chiavarini. This is her new book, Switchboard Soldiers. In June 1917, General John Pershing arrived in France to establish American forces in Europe. He immediately found himself unable to communicate with troops in the field. Pershing needed operators who could swiftly and accurately connect multiple calls, speak fluent French English, remain steady under fire, and be utterly discreet. At the time, nearly all well-trained American telephone operators were women, but women weren't permitted to enlist or even to vote in most states at that time. Nevertheless, the U.S. Army Signal Corps promptly began recruiting them. More than 7,600 women responded, including Grace Banker of New Jersey, a switchboard instructor with AT&T, a French woman named Marie Miosic, and an aspiring opera singer, Valerie Desmet, a 20-year-old Pacific telephone operator from LA. They were all determined to strike a blow for their native Belgian. The risk of death was real. The women worked as bombs fell around them, as was the threat of a deadly new disease, the Spanish flu. Not all of the telephone operators would survive. The women of the U.S. Army Signal Corps served with honor and played an essential role in achieving the Allied victory. Their story's never been the focus of a novel until now. So you might want to check this book out. She is probably most well known for her Elm Creek quilt series. That series began with the Quilter's Apprentice. I just grabbed one of them we had on the shelf, which is Round Robin. That series has over 20 books in it, so I know she's a popular author here at the library. She also will be at the Boys and Girls Brigade in Neenah on October 15th. They're going to have a full lineup that day. She's at 11 in the morning.
I've heard good thing about that switchboard.
That's on my list to read eventually.
So my next one is a popular author around here, Together with You by Leah Dobrinska, our very own. It's Christmas in Mapletown. Lainey McGregor's previous holiday season ended in disaster. Add to that her recent Election Day loss, and her spirits are decidedly unbright. She's determined to spend a quiet Christmas at home in Mapleton, helping out on her family's tree farm when needed, but mostly keeping to herself. That is, until a job opportunity sweeter than sugar plums gets dangled in front of her, if only she'll participate in a sequence of Christmas cliches. Ford Marshall has made his list and checked it twice. He's sure of one thing. He's been half in love with Lainey since he knew being in love was a thing to be, and he's always acted like a fool where she's concerned. Now, though, when Lainey finds herself running McGregor Tree Farm solo, Ford gladly steps up to be her right-hand elf. As the pair participates in the Merry Mapleton festivities, an unexpected holiday romance is born. But when personal insecurities and professional developments are brought to light, Ford and Lainey's new relationship is put to the test. Can they learn from the past mistakes, let their guards down, and come together to make theirs a Christmas love story that'll last a whole year long and beyond? A delightful and swoon-worthy holiday romance filled with brim with friendship, fun, and love. This was just published September 6th of this year, so it's brand new, and I hope you can get your hands on it before. Leah is going to be at a local authors fair that is going to be at the Boys and Girls Brigade in Neenah on that Saturday, October 15th from 11 to 3. So you can stop and see her.
And a lot of other local authors.
And a lot of other, yeah.
I always think her book covers are so beautiful.
They really
Aren't they?
are.
Yeah. I read the first two. I just bought that one. I am currently reading this one. This is The Rock Eaters for my fourth pick by Brenda Peinado. Again, just published last year in 2021. This is a collection of short stories, actually. I think it was published this year in 2022. A short story collection in the vein of Carmen Maria Machado or Kelly Link, if you like their short stories. It's a little funky. It spans worlds and dimensions, using strange and speculative elements to tackle issues ranging from class differences to immigration to first-generation experiences to xenophobia. What does it mean to be other? What does it mean to love in a world determined to keep us apart? These questions murmur in the heart of this author's strange and singular stories. Threaded with magic, transcending time and place, these stories explore what it means to cross borders and break down walls, personally and politically. In one of her stories, suburban families perform oblations to cattle-like angels who live on their roofs, believing that their thoughts and prayers will protect them from the world's violence. That was one of the kickoff stories in this book, and I read that. In another, inhabitants of an unnamed dictatorship slowly lose their own agency as pieces of their bodies go missing, and with them the essential rights that those appendages serve. The Great Escape tells of an old woman who hides away in her apartment, reliving the past among beautiful objects that she's hoarded, refusing all visitors until she disappears completely. So they're a combination of science fiction, fantasy, fabulism, magical realism. She uses her stories to reflect our flawed world and the incredible, terrifying, and marvelous nature of humanity. So the few that I've read have been kind of interesting. I'm not really into sci-fi and fabulism and stuff, but I may pick one of these for our short story group. This author closes out the night at the Boys and Girls Brigade in Neenah on October 15th. She'll be there at 7 p.m. if you want to meet the author of some short stories, The Rock Eaters by Brenda Peinado.
My last one is Two Flags for Marco. This is by Patrick Fair. Daniel Mannheim, an autistic high school savant, is introduced to Mark Flower, a retired German teacher living in a local nursing home, ostensibly to learn German, but what the senior in high school finds is a World War II POW veteran with a secretive past. Encouraged to improve his social skills, Daniel joins the writing club at the nursing home and works with the reluctant POW hero as a subject for an upcoming writing contest. Mark and Daniel develop a strong bond that probes their previous lives. Mark detests being thought of as a hero, and Daniel has much anxiety over graduation, future fears of living on his own, and parental pressure to attend the senior prom. Secrets are revealed by young and old alike, and the truth hangs raw emotions out like pictures at a public exhibition. The action slips back and forth from battlefields on World War II to the farmlands of central Wisconsin in the 40s to contemporary day room of a modern retirement home in the halls of Oakwood High School in Oakwood, Wisconsin. So another one set in Oakwood. Patrick Fair is going to be part of that local author fair at the Boys and Girls Brigade in Neenah from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, October 15th, if you want to stop and see him.
My last pick, is Modern Jungles, Among Refugees' Childhood Story of Survival by Paul Lohr. This was just published by the Historical Society in 2021. As a 5-year-old, Paul Lohr joined thousands of Hmong who fled for their lives through the jungles of Laos in the aftermath of war. After a difficult and perilous journey that neither of his parents survived, he reached the safety of Thailand, but the young refugee boy's challenges were only just beginning. Born in a small farming village, he was determined to be a clan leader, wedding negotiator, or shaman. But the course of his life changed dramatically in the 1970s when the Hmong faced persecution for their role in helping U.S. forces fighting communism in the region. After more than 2 years in Thai refugee camps, Pao and his surviving family members boarded the belly of an iron eagle bound for the United States, where he pictured a new life of comfort and happiness. Instead, he found himself navigating a frightening and unfamiliar world, adjusting to a string of new schools and living situations, while struggling to fulfill the hopes his parents had once held for his future. So this author shares his inspiring coming-of-age tale about perseverance, grit, and hope. Included with this book are discussion questions for use by book clubs, classrooms, or even just discussion around your dinner table. He will be at our library, the Kimberly Public Library, on October 14th at 11 a.m. to have a candid conversation about navigating cultural extremes. So I hope you can join us here at the Kimberly Library.
Well, we hope we helped give you a little preview of what's coming up at the Fox Cities Book Festival in October.
If you stop in at Kimberly, Tracy's been doing a fabulous job keeping updates, and you can always pick up one of these, list the schedule for all the authors and where they're going to be, who's included as part of the local author fair also. Like, comment, share. We always like to hear from you. If you're excited about a Fox Cities Book Fest author, let us know. Or if you've read any of their new books, we'd love to hear which ones you recommend. Like I said, you'll probably be putting a lot of these on hold. So usually when the Book Fest comes around, the books are popular. So until next time, we thank you for watching. Bye-bye.